do security.
Uh-huh.
And I think when you said you cut out for a second, was that NPCs? Was the other thing you were saying?
Yeah, NPCs. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you can also hire it for the same thing. So NPCs and players are kind of interchangeable as far as that goes, but generally, probably a player may be slightly more smart or reliable in some cases. But
Uh-huh.
you're able to supply ships and just hire people to fly them for you, or hire people that have a ship and will do the work for you.
Uh-huh. And so do you have to pay them?
Oh yes.
You want me to keep you guys on this?
I mean, unless there's someone that'll work for free. But the idea is you'll have to pay either NPCs or real people. NPCs pricing sort of determined on their quality level, and then on the AI side, on the real player side, that's sort of a bit more of a market going rate. But we're thinking of with the plan is to have a rating system. So like when players like I guess in France you probably don't have Uber, but you have I don't know if there's Yelp in France, but basically both the person that hires the person that hires and the person that gets hired both rate each other at the end of the job. So you can
Yeah,
say
right.
that was a 4-star or 5-star boss, or that was a 4 or 5-star employee. And so when you're hiring people, you can look at how they were rated in the past. So if someone's got 1 star, you're like, okay, he didn't do a really good job because no one's rated him really high, so you probably wouldn't want to hire that person. Whereas someone that has 4 or 5 stars would be someone that would be, yeah, they're pretty good. They're worth a premium price because they got a high rating.
Yeah, right. And so to continue on company, how do you mine? Do you have to have special equipment to mine to start with? Special cannons?
Yeah, to mine, you're gonna have to have mining lasers and also and other equipment to help collect it. And we haven't fully fleshed it out, but my goal is to have essentially to have a certain amount of skill based in terms of exactly like cracking a seam on an asteroid to be able to say mine the minerals out. And if
Uh-huh.
you don't do it the right way, then you'll probably damage it and won't be able to extract as much or extract any at all.
Alright. And so when you have the ore, you have to process it, or can you directly use it to craft materials?
No, no, you basically have to take the ore to somewhere that refines and crafts it, and then that refined, whatever it is at that point, steel or whatever, could
Uh-huh.
be used somewhere else for a factory that would need it in its construction or whatever. But it's sort of like think of it the same as a current sort of economic resource chain.
Yeah. And so all of this is done by the player. I mean, you can have a company that does the refinery process.
Yeah, yeah. So by default in in the game in the system, all this is happening. AI is doing it all the time. NPCs are doing it, but a player
Yeah.
could step in and take the role of basically the factory owner or whatever, and then be hiring other people or making sure all this is happening.
Alright. And so craft-wise, you can create a crafting company.
Well, we're going to let you create a company that you could like tweak and sort of build custom spaceships and overclock the equipment for it. So you'll
Uh-huh.
definitely be able to do that. And crafting, I guess, basically owning a factory will be the equivalent of crafting. So it's different than the old sort of Ultima style crafting where you craft like some trinkets or whatever. This is more like you own a factory and you got to make sure that you're getting so much raw materials that would
Yeah.
meet your needs for manufacturing so many finished goods.
Uh-huh.
Make sure there's buyers of that, or you're shipping those goods to some planet that there will be buyers.
Alright, and so you can craft equipment for ships as well and sell them then.
Well, yeah, I mean, basically, you could have a factory that maybe builds missiles or builds like laser guns,
Uh-huh.
and that you would need to be buying the raw materials, and then you have a certain amount of workers and a certain amount of machinery that would be required to do that, and then you would
Uh-huh.
turn out a certain amount of finished items, and those finished items can be bought by the player base or by the AI base.
Alright, and you're limited to a few recipes, or can you create new guns and new equipments?
No, you're kind of limited to. I mean, currently our thought is just that you're limited to certain kinds of stuff, and you would take over a location, and maybe you would upgrade the equipment to build a higher quality
Uh-huh.
gun.
Yeah. Alright, so you can change the quality of the gun, but not the gun itself. Is valid?
Yeah, I mean, we may have a situation where we decide, okay, we're designing a new kind of gun. Yeah, maybe that's an item that you can buy for a bunch of money, like from an R&D company or scientist, and then you could, once you bought that, you could manufacture that gun.
Uh-huh. And another question about the universe. How much dynamic is the map going to be? I mean, are planets gravitating around the star system? Are solar systems gravitating the same, or is it all fixed on the map?
Well, we had that question earlier.
I'm sorry.
So the answer was, right, we've sort of looked at actually simulating like the various planets in orbits and stuff, but you know, our sort of decision on that was that it's going to be really hard for the player to even know or appreciate that, because relatively to his time scale, he's not going to appreciate the movement. And you know, a lot of times the jump points are going to be relative to the planets anyway. So we sort of decided that maybe that's more an idea that's cool in concept, but in reality, the player would never appreciate it, because your nav sphere would always sort of auto-correct for whatever the most recent positions are. So the only way that you would ever really know it would be based on if there was like some area or landmark that like was always stationary, never moved in that system, which is fairly unlikely, but
yeah. And going on that, in freelance you could move around and go anywhere you wanted in a system, and be at a given set of coordinates, and say to a friend, can you join me there? And to travel, use the fast lines and jump drives, then to go to a system, from system to system. How is it going to work in Star Citizen to travel in the system and in another system?
Well, pretty similar. So essentially, when you're flying around in the system, you have navigation points on your nav map, which are like the charted ones. But if you just sort of fly off the beaten path, you know, and you come across an asteroid field, for instance, you can like basically, you've charted that. It will now appear in your nav point, and you can share that with your friends, and they'll know how to get to you. Or you could say, okay, here's my beacon, come fly to where I am, and they can autopilot in pretty quickly. So, in regards to that, you know, a lot of similarity was in Freelancer. And then in terms of the outer system travel, that's jump points. So the jump points are the way of going between the different systems and actually being able to travel at great distance in light years in a blink of an eye. They're typically kind of sort of fixed or whatever.
Alright. And you have to navigate those jump points, am I right? When you are inside the jump points.
If you're discovering the jump point for the first time, you definitely have to navigate them, and it's very dangerous. But if you're jumping through a jump point that's already been navigated and documented with the UEE, then your ship, as it goes through, in almost all cases, has an autopilot that will essentially take care of it. But if it's the first time you're doing it, you've like manually got to do it, and that's actually a very difficult task.
And are all these fixed, or do they appear and disappear randomly? Because I mean, exploration-wise, if they are all fixed, in a few months when the game launches, everyone will know where they are.
Well, we're sort of debating that. I mean, most of them will be fixed. There may be some stuff that kind of moves around. But the other thing is we're planning on adding systems all the time. So even once we go live, we're planning on adding systems.